guy who knows a lot about the House is the president of Endeavor Strategic Communications, Kurt Bardella. Kurt, we welcome you into America's Forum.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
It is good to have you here. Now, we've heard, Kurt, officially about 3 guys emerging in pursuit of this job as majority leader. Kevin McCarthy of California, the current House Whip, Pete Sessions of Texas, the outgoing NRCC chair, and Jeb Hensarling, likewise of Texas, the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, if memory serves. And of course, yesterday, Kurt, you had the press conference with Eric Cantor where he endorsed Kevin McCarthy. Is Cantor's endorsement valuable within the House Republican Conference?
Well, JD, I think that there's no question it doesn't hurt to have support from a person who is the current majority leader, who still has a lot of members who respect him, his opinion. Interestingly enough, in the last few minutes, actually, it's broken that Jeb Hensarling, the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, will not be pursuing the majority leader post. So right now, it looks like we're down to a 2-man race between the current GOP whip, Kevin McCarthy, and Texas Rep and Rules Committee Chairman Pete Sessions.
So, Kurt, that's interesting. Has Hensarling lined up behind anybody yet? Because, you know, a stark difference between the way Hensarling handled this and Pete Sessions handled this. Pete coming out, Congressman Sessions coming out right away yesterday telling CBS News, yes, I am in fact seeking this leadership position. Do you know what went on behind the scenes there that may have led to Hensarling kind of stepping aside in the race?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been interesting the last few days, you know, and JD knows this from his time in Congress. These races oftentimes are over before they even start, that there is a lot of private wrangling, a lot of direct member-to-member interaction, and speed kills in these kind of elections. And it is kind of like House of Cards meets Game of Thrones type of scenario that happens in almost like a conclave. And Kevin was very, very quick and aggressive at locking up support. And one of the unique things about Kevin is he's played a very huge role at the NRCC recruiting candidates, helping members of Congress retain their seats and win re-election. And that member-to-member interaction is why he really began this race as a front runner with a huge advantage. And there was a lot of split from what I'm hearing between Jeb Hensarling and Pete Sessions. A lot of members really thought that Jeb would be the conservative heir apparent to pursue this. And there were a lot of members who were privately upset that Pete Sessions kind of undermined that by it being so bold and public about his intention to run. It kind of split the Texas delegation, and you had this kind of divide internally. And now it's really interesting to see if there are any hard feelings from that. The sense is that Sessions may not have the support and the same level of intensity behind his movement the way that Jeb Hensarling would have. Jeb being the former chairman of the Republican Study Committee, being someone who's been talked about very fervently by conservatives as someone they want to see in the leadership cycle. It's entirely possible that with all of the changes going on with Cantor losing and all the shock that surrounded that at the end of the day, it's McCarthy who's going to be the majority leader, and the conservatives may not have someone ready to go in the leadership spot.
Well, it sounds to me this situation seems to be more basic, Kurt, at least in terms of the Texas factor. If you had 2 Texans running, it would be problematic. It's interesting you bring up the undercurrent of resentment about Pete Sessions, but mentioning the NRCC, it's more than candidate recruitment with Kevin McCarthy as the House Whip. You've got Pete Sessions, who ran the NRCC for so many cycles now, I'm losing count. So he was active in all of those races too. And Pete has a remarkable ability to reconcile people and bring them together. On the other hand, McCarthy, as a Californian, succeeding Bill Thomas in that seat from Bakersfield, what now? He's been in Congress, this is what, his 3rd term? He's really a political wunderkind. Are some of the older guys really going to go with McCarthy out of spite against Sessions?
Well, I think the reality is that because Kevin has played such a hands-on role, even in some circles would say more than Mr. Sessions has, and certainly in the last cycle it really was kind of a Kevin McCarthy-dominated congressional cycle, that there's just a lot of loyalty built up behind Kevin. And Kevin is just, he started out with this huge 48-hour window lead of being able to build coalitions, get member commitments, and from what I'm hearing, they feel very confident by the end of this week, by tomorrow, Kevin will have secured the votes to win this thing. Now, you know as well as I do that what goes on behind closed doors and who votes for who is anybody's guess. People make all kinds of promises and say all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, it remains to be seen whether that translates to victory. But Kevin's got an operation that's been up and running and very aggressive, and Sessions is starting to do this really from the ground up now, and so he's at a bit of a time deficit.
Kurt Bardella, speaking of a time deficit, that's in short supply for us. We thank you for your insights. Look forward to having you back on America's Forum real soon.
Thank you very much, JD.
All right, so that's Kurt's take on it.
You know, and John Boehner won't be the Speaker of the House forever. The next question is put Kevin McCarthy in the driver's seat to be the next Speaker of the House? Should the Republicans retain control of the House for a long period of time?
There's never a certain thing in politics. That's